interview. It's more like chit chat, sharing ideas, me talking to you about how we consume Bollywood content and how we perceive them, how we interpret them, which is quite more interesting and more important than the just consumptive aspect of it.
Right, right.
The interpretation part is very, very important because that's the end result, whether or not the soft power target has been achieved or otherwise. So thank you once again for agreeing to speak to me on my personal YouTube channel, Global Arena TV. I really find it pretty much humbling, honoring, and so on and so forth, having you on the show. So briefly, like I said, let me make an introduction. Bollywood has had an enormous amount of influence on Nigerians, especially particularly the northern Nigerians. Those of us living in the north, we feel like we have a lot of connection in terms of culture, in terms of way of life, in terms of world view. There's a lot of connection between us and the Indians, and that is why we feel more attached to them than the Americans in terms of film industries. We watch more of the Bombay products than the Los Angeles counterparts. So, in the process of doing that, we come in contact with the music, and the music has proven to be even more interesting, more attention grabbing, more mind penetrating, if I can use this phrase, more than the English ones. English is the official language of Nigeria, and there's a lot of people who speak English. There's a lot of people who communicate in English. There's a lot of people who have gone to English speaking countries. So what's new in listening to the English music? Some would say nothing new, even though English students sometimes are advised to listen to some form of English content in order to improve their own language. But here you are having music content from a totally different part of the world, speaking a totally different language with intonation, with vocabulary, almost distinctly different from the ones we use, except the few ones that have been borrowed or that got poured into the Hindi language through Urdu from Arabic and so on and so forth. So we listen to those songs from Bollywood, not understanding a word out of them, but then yet we keep on listening and listening and enjoying the melody and so on and so forth produced, and the emotions that are produced, that are sprinkled in the lyrics and the music and everything, has a great deal of influence on us emotionally. You see us listening to the Indian music, closing our eyes, reflecting, thinking, sometimes trying to remember our own girlfriends, and the girls trying to remember their boyfriends, and so on and so forth. And yet, if you ask us, we don't know a thing about in terms of the meaning. And that's why I decided to invite you, Professor. Beyond the melody of the music, let's talk about the meaning. I have started doing a research because I realized that there are some religious songs, or there are some songs that could sound a bit religious, praising the Hindu gods, for example. And as Muslims, I said we have to be extra careful. In Islam, it's not it's problematic. It's haram. It's not good for us to be praising other people's gods, for example. And this is us. I'm not trying to create a chaos or crisis here, but then this is us trying to. There is a red line. We should come in contact with everyone, respect everyone, have a relationship with everyone. But then when it comes to religion, let everyone practice their own religion. So I started digging into those songs, and I discovered that most of the songs that we consume are not religious in nature. They are not the ones praising Lord Ganesh and Shiva and so on and so forth. Mostly they are the ones with the guys praising their own girlfriends and the girlfriends praising their own boyfriends and so on and so forth. Yet they have issues. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them go extra mile by describing the men, describe the women as gods. The women describe the men as gods, and so on and so forth. So that's why I said, Professor, in our own vantage point, from our own understanding, we feel like lines have been crossed religiously. If I were to say some of those lines, I it would cost my faith. So, what? How do you see it? Because there are a lot of Muslims. The Muslims in India outnumber even the population of Nigeria, over 200 million Muslims. Yet they are the minority. But then. Yeah, linguistically, and thank God you are working at the Department of English and Languages and so on and so forth at Binghamton University. So, linguistically, how do you explain the context of those songs, for example?
Right. No,
Yeah, so that's why we're here.
yeah. No, thank you for that detailed
Mm,
history as well as setup. I think
mm,
I'll comment primarily on, I think, the question of language,
mm,
because I think that the question of reception in some ways can be an even more complicated question, and in some
mm,
ways that requires ethnographic work
mm,
to think through, right? Um, but I think one thing that is really important to understand within the context of Bombay cinema, many of the songs I think that you're referring to
mm,
uh, are uh, uh, are emerging in Bombay from and referencing a syncretic Sufi tradition.
mm. What does
Uh,
that
and
mean?
and so within the context of South Asia, the Sufi tradition is a tradition of Islam,
Okay.
um, where where and in like where poetry has been very important
Mm,
as a way to praise and discuss God. Uh,
mm,
and it's a syncretic tradition to the extent that it also sort of it draws upon other cultural as well as religious traditions in
mm.
India.
Yes.
Uh, and uh, and it's really it's a tradition that then gets mobilized uh, in these songs, which are in some ways, are really grounded in um, uh, an Urdu literary tradition.
Mm,
So I think one of the things that's very important to understand about, and this is not true of all
yes.
of Hindi, film music, but but certainly like a large portion of it,
Okay.
that historically this the music and the lyrics of the songs, the people who wrote these lyrics were themselves poets and novelists, right?
Mm,
They were coming out of what in India was a progressive literary
mm,
or literary association.
okay.
Uh, and they were some really well-known poets and novelists in India.
Mm,
So if one would do like a comparison, it would be like a T.S. Eliot writing your
mm,
song, like this is really kind of the so it so they were often the ones also writing the lyrics, and I think in some ways that part of that tradition where lyricists, not all the lyricists, but some of the lyricists themselves are also poets,
okay. Oh.
right? And they are drawing upon in their poetry,
Mhm.
uh, uh, they're turning both to the Urdu literary tradition, but also to the Sufi tradition, which has also influenced the literary tradition, as a way to create a narrative about love,
Mm.
where uh, love is like God.
Okay.
Sometimes love is greater than God. Sometimes your lover is like God.
Mm.
But I think it's done not uh, in a disrespectful way at all,
Okay.
but a mode of, in some ways, making love sublime,
Okay.
right?
So yeah.
Um,
So it's just
so
like they are, to use this phrase, they are immersed in the intoxication of love, and
right.
that is like.
That's beautifully, that the intoxication of love is
Mm.
akin to the intoxication of God,
Mm. So
right?
okay.
So
So you okay? Experts like you don't see them as being disrespectful to God.
no, no. In fact, I think that there's a way in which it's through reference to God, love itself is made something that's sublime.
Okay. So we're going to get okay. There's a case studies. Okay, so there are some case studies. Specific songs that I have drafted, which I shared
Right,
with you,
right,
in which some lines have been said that, to the best of my understanding, and my own interpretation, lines crossed and so on and so forth. But then I think before we go into that, some how do you okay, the reception part, as you said, is tricky a bit, but then how do you think people receive such songs? Do they even raise an eyebrow? Do they even raise
right.
eyebrows?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think within the context, I would say, of South Asia, because the you know the and that connection is in some ways a well-known connection, uh, at least within the context of South Asia. uh, it's not considered to be disrespectful. It's not considered to be crossing, but crossing,
Any red line?
those boundaries, right?
Okay.
It's supposed to be, in some ways, I think, understood to be, part of a literary tradition, which is drawing upon a certain religious tradition,
Mm.
because it's very common
Mm.
that there is, and the tropes that are being used
Mm.
are ubiquitous in a certain way, and common. So they're not, uh, they're associated with this tradition, which approaches and makes love sublime,
Okay.
akin to God.
So now Indians do not protest, do not criticize musicians or songs when they make songs similar to such, or such songs, unlike when they make controversial songs, or songs that are perceived as controversial. I listened to one of your lectures somewhere in America, talking about that Pathan's song, Besharam
Right,
Rang, and you talked
right,
about the censorship
right.
2.0, and how digital tools were used to censor those kinds of. So now, the Indians can raise an eyebrow about a certain type of song, but not song that could be perceived uh, to cross lines when it comes to God.
I think that in that particular, in case of that particular song, I think the issue for the Hindu
Mm.
organizations became, the became the saffron bikini,
Okay, okay.
right? So I think it
Well, the
was the out
appearance, the
right.
optics.
Yeah, the optics and the outfit for them became an issue, or rather, they made it an issue, right?
Mm,
Because again, I mean, I think one has to be vigilant here about if you think about you think about representations, because we do have a history of songs, including a very sensual song that was very popular in the 80s, uh, uh, where a saffron outfits have been part of songs that are have been very sensual, right? So I think I think that when you make an issue about it at this juncture, at this political moment,
mm,
right?
mm,
We have to we have to probe it a little bit more. That why is it that similar outfits in the 80s didn't raise eyebrows,
mm. Okay.
but now are raising eyebrows? So what's happening? What is different about now that
Okay.
uh, uh,
So you feel
that
like the BJP guys, though the Hindu nationalists, politicians in India were just using that to go after Shah Rukh Khan?
I think that certainly I think Shah Rukh Khan has been, one of their favorite targets. Um, uh, so I think what, but I think that in some ways, to go after him is to also go after the industry, right?
Yes. Oh, that's great. I heard you in your lecture. You said, I mean, quoting that Shah Rukh Khan now has about 1 billion followers and fans worldwide. That's a big
Right.
number.
Right. So I mean that number itself, of course, might be inflated, but
Mm.
he clearly has a very robust fan base,
Do you
right?
like him? Is he your favorite?
Very, 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 very much so. Very much so.
I mean, why is it that most of the Bollywood professors that I've interviewed are big fans of Shah Rukh Khan? You included. Professor Mehelisen, I have not interviewed her, but I've been in touch with her. She was the one who connected me to you. Professor Anupama Prabhala Kapse, Professor Rini Mehta in this American city, Illinois. A lot of them, all of them have told me that Shah Rukh Khan is their favorite actor. Why?
I can't speak for them. I think for myself, I think there's many reasons. I think I really enjoyed some of his on-screen performances. I think sometimes he's even better off-screen.
Oh,
He's a like very very witty and
mm,
charismatic,
mm,
smart man off-screen. Um,
excellent.
so I think
Mm,
I think those are some of the reasons. I think that uh, uh, there's also maybe some familiarity because I grew up in a part of Delhi that was similar to where he grew up.
mm,
Uh, so that familiarity, I think is uh, maybe part
mm.
of
Yeah.
also
So have you ever
also
met him?
liking.
Have you ever
No,
met him?
I never met him. I've
Would
never
you like
met
to
him.
meet him?
Absolutely.
Oh, Shah Rukh Khan, if you are currently watching this, please try to meet our one and only Professor Monika Mehta, and I hope to be included in the meeting. So let's move on. So since we're talking about Shah Rukh Khan, let's start by analyzing a song that Shah Rukh Khan appeared to have played in it, and let's see if we can find it. Okay, Tujmen Rab Dikta Hai. That's the
Right,
name of the song, I
right.
suppose, and I'm trying to find something that I've written about it. It's him and this woman, Anushka Sharma, somewhere
Yes.
around 2006, right? Um, okay. In this song, Shah Rukh Khan, via singer Roop Kumar Rathore, says to Anushka Sharma, I'm going to quote the part, the verse. He says, and I quote, Tujmen Rab Dikta Hai, meaning in English, I see God in you. The name of the movie is Rabne Banadi Jodi. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how can you see God in your girlfriend, for example? Isn't that
Right.
problematic? Because we believe that God is invisible. No one can ever tell you that he has seen God Almighty, the creator of the world, creator of universe, humans, and so on and so forth. But then he says he sees God, and the word used in Hindi is Rab. Rab is
Right.
an Arabic word.
Right.
I'm sure
Right.
it poured into Hindi language through Urdu.
Actually, it's Punjabi. So the
Okay,
word
Punjab.
rub is used is in the context of India. You're absolutely right. It's pulled from Arabic, but
Hmm.
it's pulled into Arabic from Arabic into actually Punjabi.
Okay. So Rab in Arabic means God.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
the English translation is God with capital letter G.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what can you say about this?
Right. So I think you know uh, and I'm sure you're familiar with the visualization
Hmm.
of this song sequence, which goes to various religious sites
Hmm.
as well. Um,
Hmm.
and I think again, for me, both the lyrics,
Hmm.
uh, but because as you know that in the context of um, making a song sequence in India requires a lot of industrial labor, right?
Hmm.
You need your lyricists, you need your composers, you have your playback singers, you have your choreographers,
Hmm.
and then of course you have your stars
Hmm.
who are going to be lip syncing the song.
Hmm.
So I think that. But again, just as you are like focusing on the specific words,
Hmm.
um, I think again the lyricist there is drawing upon the uh, uh, Sufi
Hmm.
syncretic traditions that
Okay.
have influenced literature in Urdu. They've also influenced literature in Punjabi,
Okay.
and and so again, I think through uh, in within sort of the genre of romance, the references to God are always in some ways about
Hmm.
making love itself sublime.
Okay.
Uh, that love is not simply worldly, right?
Okay. Okay. That's good. So let's move
Right,
on.
like love itself is like spiritual in some
Okay.
ways.
Okay. When you say making love sublime, what does that mean? If I get you right.
So it means that taking love out of its worldly context
Hmm.
and making it spiritual.
Okay, I understand. So let's move on. Kesaria is a song by Arjit Singh
Right.
from a movie called Brahmastra.
Yeah.
Brahmastra,
Yeah.
I hope I got the pronunciation
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in the beginning, okay, there is a verse somewhere in the beginning which says, Rabbane tujiko banani men khardi he hosnaki khali tijorian. In English, it says, I hope I got the translation right. God has emptied his vault of beauty in creating you. I mean, people like us here would feel like there is a sort of weakness attached to God. Okay, this person is saying to his girlfriend, and it happens in the movie that it's this guy, the son of Need to Sing. what's his name?
Ranbir
Ranbir
Kapoor.
Kapoor, and is it Ali Abad? Ali Abad, who
Yes,
happens to
yes,
be his
Alia
wife in
Bhatt.
reality. He says to her, he looks at her and says, upon creating you, God had to exhaust all his vault of beauty, which means after creating you, no any beautiful person would be created. And that
Right,
is weakness associated to God. I mean, how do
right,
you read it?
right. So I don't read it necessarily as a weak as a weakness associated with God so
Mm,
much. So in some ways, uh, again, I think here the references to God are a way to to think about and reflect upon uh, uh,
mm.
in this case the beauty of your lover,
Wow.
right? So
Wow.
so the so the so the so
So
so what are
it's
the
a hyperbole.
yeah, right,
It's a
so what are the
hyperbolic
ways in
expression.
which, right, so what are the ways in which you can express to your lover or express to a lover that they are the most beautiful thing in this world? So
Mm,
the one again way to express this, and this
mm.
is this mode of expression actually is relatively common in lyrics
Wow.
in Bombay cinema,
Mm,
where so again this would be a relatively common phrase,
mm,
uh, and in terms of saying that uh, that God has emptied their wall
okay.
their vault. So again, for me, the at least in terms of my understanding
Mm,
of it is that the work that is being done, it's a lover talking to his girlfriend and trying to praise her beauty,
mm,
and do it in a way that it seems that her beauty is so extraordinary.
to satisfy her, to make her feel like she is the most beautiful person to have ever been created on
Exactly.
this earth.
Exactly,
That
exactly,
that is
exactly, exactly.
hugely hyperbolic.
So the reference to
Mm.
God is a way to do that, as opposed
It's
to
meant for
it being
emphasis, right?
right. It's yeah. So it's
Wow.
not meant to diminish God in any way,
Mm,
but to make that lover extraordinary.
that's wonderful. So let's move on. I think I've written a lot of things about the other song Khuda Jane. Still our guy Ranbir Kapoor, but this time
Right.
around it's Deepika Padukone. Okay, this song is beautiful. In fact, when before we started recording, you heard me listening to it, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
One of
yeah,
the
yeah. And
most,
it's also it's a yeah, and the visuals are also really beautiful
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. One of the most beautiful songs I've ever listened to. But then still
right,
there are issues. So let's see. I have two observations, first of all. The first verse begins by saying, Sajide men yu hi jukutahun, meaning, according to filmyquotes.com, website that translates Indian songs into English, he says, I bow down to worship. Okay, then the next part of the song says tumpehi ake ruktahun, meaning in English, I come to a stop when I see you.
right,
And the same verse was translated by bollynook.com as Sajide men yuhin juktahun, I bow down my head in worship in front of you.
right,
So two, I don't know why we have these two different interpretations. I'll ask you. And then the other part says Tumpe Aki Ruktahun, means I come to a stop on seeing you. There is a contradiction here.
right, right,
According to filmy quotes, it says when he's worshiping and he sees her, he stops. But this Bollynook.com says he is worshiping right in front of her, which means he's
right,
worshiping her. And then he stops when he sees her. I don't know. Should we start addressing the linguistic contradiction before we address how he worships his own girlfriend?
Right, right. I mean, I think that that again, uh, the lyrics where you bow your head um, to uh, to your lover,
Mm,
or you worship your lover. I think, and there's also instances both in dialogue and in songs, where you bow your head to your parents and you worship your parents, right? And I think both set the trope again of bowing your head to your lover or worshiping your lover, uh, is again very common. In fact, the um, uh, 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 Kuch Kuch Hota has that in a dialogue.
mm,
Rab ne bana di jodi
mm,
also has that phrase.
mm,
So again, these are there's to me there is
mm.
nothing like distinctive about it.
Still the same thing.
It Right. It again is part and parcel of uh, 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 of love songs
Mm,
in Bombay cinema, again, and the references are the same to that Sufi tradition,
mm,
um, and it has the same purpose of uh, making love uh, into that which is spiritual,
okay.
and giving love a status of being spiritual, which I think becomes in our day and age,
Oh,
when love is so often connected to the worldly and activities of the world, specifically like when you think about consumption.
yeah.
Right. So love is about you getting chocolates for your girlfriend.
Mm,
Love is about you taking her out
mm,
to dinner. Love is about you doing a romantic getaway someplace.
mm,
Right. So love is associated so often with consumption and the
mm,
ability to consume. Right.
mm,
Uh, and in this instance, uh, love is something love is spiritual, right? it's
mm.
it's not being it's not being associated with um necessarily activities uh, of uh, uh, of the world, and especially in our world, except activities that involve consumption.
Wow. Which means love is very, very important to the Indians.
So at least at the level of poetry, love is very important.
we we are going on a short break. When we come back, I will ask you about the reality of how love is to the Indians. Because in Nigeria, we believe, and yeah, we know. I mean, we think and we do believe that Indians are among the most romantic people that worship love in the world. Something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right, right.
So, yeah.
So where has so have most of the people that mostly migrated from India in the past 40-50 years, or are there people even before?
Well, currently in Nigeria, there are, I don't have the figures in my head, but over 50,000, close to 100,000, or a little below 100,000 Indians currently working and living in Nigeria, most of them contributing to the economy of the country. Was it last year or in 2024 when Prime Minister Modi came to Nigeria to visit our president and talk about bilateral relations and so on and so forth. Your then ambassador to Nigeria, someone Bala Subramaniam, was
Mhm.
interviewed on one national TV called Arise News, and they talked a lot. I enjoyed that interview. They talked a lot about the bilateral relations between Nigeria and India, and the relations have gone far, decades ago, with Indians coming to Nigeria for mostly business purposes. They have industries, they have companies in Lagos, which is like the commercial nerve
I
and
I
hub.
I didn't I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. I didn't realize that there were um uh,
Mm,
uh like Indian corporate
mm.
and so so these are so these are industries that are they're headed by Indians from
Indians.
India,
Mm,
and they
yes.
have joint relations with.
Mostly, okay, the Indian businesses are run, operated, and controlled by the Indians, but then they are, as it is in any country, when you go and set up a company or a business in
Right.
any country, you have to employ people from that country, that host country. So most of the big guys running, controlling the industries and companies and businesses are Indians, but then they do hire Nigerians to work for them, and they work together in different parts of Nigeria. Mostly, there are many
Okay.
of them in Lagos, and there is a large concentration of Indians in Kano, where I'm from. They even have an Indian Cultural Association. It's like the bigger organization is in Nigeria, but then they have state chambers or chapters in states. And I had a privilege of interviewing the leader of Indian Cultural Association in our state, Kanu, when I was presenting a talk show on a radio, on Hikima Radio, in Kanu last year when Modi visited Nigeria. So there's
Right.
this, and they organize events, Yoga Day, Republic Day, Independence Day in August.
Okay.
In August, August 14th or 15th. Which one is yours? Which one is the Pakistanis?
The Pakistanis is the 14th and the Indians is the 15th.
Okay, so they organize events, and they mix and mingle with what now have become a group of young Nigerians enthusiastic about Bollywood and Indian culture. So they come together. There's music, singing, and dancing. There is conversations. There is, they eat and drink and so on, and take pictures,
Okay.
and they talk about culture and so on and so forth. In my state, Kano, there are many people who speak Hindi language without even going to India. They have learned the Hindi language, as they say, most of them, which is quite surprisingly, they say they learned the Hindi language through Bollywood movies.
Right,
Mm,
right. No, that's that sounds very much like the work that I've done on a South Korean popular culture and the
mm,
ways in which that has also spread globally, and people because of that have become interested in food and language, and made efforts to learn language. I'm curious. Besides
mm.
about the Bombay film industry, do people watch Tamil films or Telugu films or Malayalam films?
I would love to connect you to one guy. He's my friend called Aliyu Wazir Khan. Aliyu Wazir, we call him Wazir Khan. Sometimes we call him Wazir Kapoor. Um, yes, simply because he is on Facebook. I don't know if you are on Facebook. I will give you his handle to follow him. He makes videos
Okay,
informing people about Bollywood issues. He talks about current trends, news
okay.
stories, what actors are doing, film releases, birthdays, and so on and so forth. And Wazir is this talented young man who has learned how to speak Hindi fluently, and he got the opportunity of going to India under a scholarship from the Modi government
Okay.
to read India, what do you call it, Hindi language, literature, and culture, and so on and so forth. So he talks about, he's one of the few that I know in our state that talk about other film industries from India, Telugu,
Okay.
Malayalam, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But mostly Bollywood is the most popular. Even the music that we consume is coming from Mumbai. I feel like I don't understand Hindi language. All those things that I've talked to you about, I've learned them through translation. Alhamdulillah,
Right,
thank God, because
right.
I understand English. But then people like Wazir, they understand Hindi language, and that helps them a lot in communicating with the Indians, and that makes it possible for them to know a couple of other things about other film. But then Bollywood is the dominant, is the most popular.
Okay,
We feel like
okay,
the
okay.
music is even more beautiful than those. I'm sorry for my Telugu and Tamil friends, than those coming from those industries. And this is coming from someone who is ignorant of those languages. I'm sorry.
Right, 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 right. No, I mean, I think that, certainly, in terms of my own experience, like you, I'm not familiar with Tamil, Telugu, as I don't. Those are not languages I speak. So
Mm,
I also
mm.
listen and watch in translation.
Okay, good.
But with Hindustani,
Mm,
which is sort of the mixture of Hindi and Urdu that's used in the Bombay films. That's a language I grew up with, and so I'm very attached to both the language, but also the ways in which Bombay cinema has rendered
mm,
uh, and presented it, and I think uh, the lyrics, especially, so many of them are just so beautiful
mm,
because as you said, I think earlier, there's such emotional pull in
mm.
those songs, right? That
Yes.
there that's that there is there's an emotional the emotional grammar, the emotional pull of those songs,
Mm.
I think is uh, I think draws many people
Yeah, it's
to that.
true. And one interesting thing about how the popularity of Bollywood in our place is that the like I said, Wazir Khan, Wazir Kapoor. I wished one day you would get an opportunity to travel to Nigeria for research. I would love to be a research assistant of yours. I'll take you to places where people do sit down to learn Hindi language, and it's because of their attachment to Bollywood. And what they do is they attach their names to the names of their favorite celebrities. For example,
Wow.
if I'm a fan of Shah Rukh Khan, I'll be calling myself Umar Khan.
Okay,
You
okay,
see,
okay,
somebody who's a
okay.
fan of, let's say, Kapoor, Rishi Kapoor, or this Rambir Kapoor, and so on and so forth, he would call himself, for example, um, um, Ibrahim Rambir or Ibrahim Kapoor. Do you understand?
Wow.
Something
Okay.
like
Right. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 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 And
There's
is it?
someone, yeah, there's someone I always talk about. His name is, I've never met him. Um, what's his name? Arjun, Shaib Arjun. He always, we interact with him on our Bollywood radio, Bollywood talk shows. He sends messages, he calls, and I always tell him, Shaib Arjun, I've been talking about you to my Bollywood professors, and I've never met you. You see, Arjun is not a Muslim name; is a Hindu name, I
Right.
suppose.
Right.
Um, but
Right.
but but he's attaching his name with a Hindu name, not because of the religion, but because of his
Right.
attachment
Right.
to maybe
Because
Arjun Rampal and so on and so forth.
right. Because of the, I'm curious. Are most of the songs that people enjoy listening to, are they mostly romantic songs, or do they do other kinds of songs, like songs that are maybe about celebrations, or that express uh, you know uh, uh, love of
Mm.
family members,
Mm.
or maybe ones that are also critical of the world.
Um,
uh
yeah, and if I understand you, okay, I think most of our people don't care about the meanings. In fact, I think I'm one of the very few people who have come out to talk about the deeper meanings of the
okay,
songs. They just care about the melody, the beauty of the
okay,
songs.
okay.
That is just it.
Yeah, so the beauty of the songs and then the beauty of the visuals as well, or just the melody?
Okay, okay, there. Okay, two things. Some people appreciate the beauty of the visuals, and others don't. They just prefer the melody. For example, like me, I don't like singing and dancing. I mean, I don't like dancing, and sometimes, like in the Patan songs, there's a lot of obscene scenes, for example, in the songs, Jomejo Patan, the way they dress, even Beshwara Rang. I'm trying to pronounce the name correctly. Menene Besharam Rang. The kind of dress is a bit indecent. So I feel like it's not good for people to watch with their children, for example. So since I was growing up, we did not used to watch
Okay,
songs, dancing,
okay,
and so on and so forth. We just forward that maybe that training is the thing that has had an impact on me. But I do listen to them because I've grown
okay,
up listening to them in our radio from our radio stations every single
okay,
blessed day. In one radio station or the other, a Bollywood song or some Bollywood songs would be played. So personally, I prefer listening to watching, but there are many
okay.
people who prefer both. They watch and they listen.
Right, right, right. And are people, do people also have favorite playback singers, or is it just via the star? So when you like a song, is it because it's Ranbir Kapoor's song, or is it because Arjit Singh is singing it?
Excellent question. Absolutely excellent. Um, both, both.
Okay,
And it's a bit of both, but then there is context. Okay, there are people who are not interested at all in the singers. They don't even know them. Apart from
okay,
Udit Narayan and Kumar Sanu, they don't know the rest. Except now that Arjit is becoming more and more popular than any Bollywood musician or singer of this generation. But I don't think if you show them the pictures of Kumar and Udit, I don't think they would be able to distinguish between who is who and who is not who. But
right,
then what they say is Shah Rukh Khan in this song is amazing. Salman Khan,
right, right.
Amir Khan are amazing. Do you understand? But then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people who are more critical can say, I prefer Arjit Singh than maybe Udit Narayan. Or no, okay, let's do this. Arjit Singh versus Atif Aslam, or Arjit Singh versus any of the contemporary guys, for example. And then you go
Right,
back to the 90s and early 2000s and you say Udit versus Kumar. Up to now,
right.
the debate between Kumar and Udit has not been resolved.
Okay.
Yes.
And what and do people know composers? So, for example, would somebody say, "Oh, I want to listen to this album because Vishal Shekhar have has done the album"?
I don't know. I don't know who that is. I've never heard the name. What?
Oh, okay. So you so they are really sort of contempt in in Bombay today.
Mhm.
For almost now more than 2 decades, they have been uh, uh, like composing, but they're also singers themselves.
Oh, that,
So they, for example, did the songs for Pathan. They're the composers for
oh,
Pathan.
that's good.
They're also the composers for Om Shanti Om.
Wow, excellent. When you say composers, what does that mean? Does that mean they are the lyricists or what? What?
No, compose the music.
Okay,
The
the
melodies
music.
that you like, they're the ones who are
Wow.
writing them.
I'm so sorry to them. A lot of our people don't know them, but they appreciate the melody and
Right,
the
right.
aesthetics, yeah, of, of,
Yeah.
of, of those songs. Unfortunately, I am among those people.
Right. So I'm sure you've
But I
heard
know
of
one person. I know one guy that, what did you say? You should reach out to
you probably know A.R. Rahman.
A.R. Rahman. Yes, yes. Yeah, these days he has raised a controversy. And I saw
Okay.
I saw one of my favorite Indian journalists who I criticize, this guy Arnab Goswami,
Okay.
seriously criticizing A.R. Rahman, and I think A.R. Rahman was interviewed, saying something like, "Is it Muslims do not get equal opportunities?" Something like that, and Arnab was heavily criticizing him on Republic TV. So I know A.R. Rahman, but not quite well. But I know one
Right.
guy that a lot of our people don't know him. His
Right.
name is Chakraborty, Pritam Chakraborty.
Yes, yes, he's also, yeah. Preetam Chakrabarti, Vishal Bhardwaj, who directs, but he also, does work on music
Mm,
for his films. So,
mm.
um,
And he sings and he writes also, right? He is a lyricist and he's also a singer.
yeah, he doesn't. His wife sings. I don't remember him singing, but
Mm,
he might do that. But I primarily know him
mm,
as a composer and as a
mm.
director.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because during the lockdown, I saw one of his videos on YouTube with Arjit Singh, separately, both of them staying in their own houses,
Right.
singing Shayad. It's a popular song of Arjit Singh, and I
Okay.
think it was Pritam Chakraborty who wrote the song, or
Okay.
composed, wrote whatever the
Right.
song for
Right.
him, and then they sang it. So that was the first
Okay.
time I heard the voice of
Right.
Pritam, and I got to know that some would say is the brain behind Arjit's hit songs or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the people who really in some ways discovered Arjit, I would say, um, uh, and may was Vishesh Production.
Hmm.
Where it's a production house of Mahesh and Mukesh Bhatt,
Okay. Hmm.
and
Mahesh
their
Bhatt,
yeah, Mahesh Bhatt and his
the father of
Alia
Alia Bhatt, Alia
Alia Bhatt's
Bhatt's father. Hmm.
father. Yeah. So
Hmm.
they their production house uh, uh, really does a lot of terrific, I think, albums, and they really bring in, at least in Bombay cinema, if you look at sort of just uh, the soundtracks
Hmm.
of their films, right? They bring in they brought in some really terrific new singers, new composers.
Hmm.
Um, uh, uh, yeah, so
Okay, that's
they're
good. So I have a couple of more questions to ask you before I come back and answer some of your interesting questions about popularity of Bollywood in our place. Let's move on. Last we talked about talking about this song Khuda Jane from Bachna E Hasino.
right,
I talked about worshiping, and you said
right,
it's the intoxication of love that makes them do and say stuff like that. But actually, in real sense, he's not worshiping her. But then in the song, he says this part, and it's just crazy. Let me see if I can repeat it. "Ke bangai hotum mere khuda," and he says, because you have become, as he said, his God. She has become his God.
right, right,
I still
right,
feel
right,
uncomfortable repeating the lines.
right. I mean, I think again, I think, as you know, uh, uh, with any literary tradition,
Mm,
um, uh, whether it is in the context of South Asia or and the different languages there, or in the context of the English literary tradition
mm,
as well, right? So metaphorical language
mm,
is a key part, and
mm.
use of metaphors is a key part, right, uh, of uh, uh, of literary traditions,
Yeah,
especially in terms of poetry,
yeah,
right?
direct
And so
comparison. That's metaphor.
exactly, right. So I think that that we again we are we're seeing here sort of the use of metaphors.
Mm.
We and those metaphors in and different literary traditions, of
Mm.
course, use different kinds of
Mm.
metaphors.
Mm.
And here within the Urdu literary tradition, that in some ways these lyrics are being influenced by, that literary tradition has been influenced by Sufism.
Wow.
So the metaphorical language that is coming to us, through the tradition, and what its influences are are where metaphorical comparisons are being made
Wow.
to God. So I think it's coming. Uh,
Mm.
it's
So
it's part and parcel of that literary tradition and the use of metaphorical language,
yeah,
which
Hindi
is
language is highly literary.
right. The Hindus, yeah, Hindustani. I
Mm.
think the Hindustani, which is sort of a mixture of Hindi and Urdu, which
Okay.
Bombay cinema uses, I think is drawing upon these traditions.
So it's not the Hindi language used, it's the
So
Hindustani.
I think historically
What's the
in Bombay
difference?
cinema, yeah. So historically in Bombay cinema, if we turn to the 1940s and 50s, a number of writers were um, uh, were writers who wrote in poetry and novels in Urdu, right?
Mm.
So and then you also had some who were writing in Hindi, but
Mm.
I think in everyday speaking, which is often what uh, uh, a Bombay cinema has tended to cultivate
Mm.
and cultivate more so like everyday speech,
Mm.
right? But within the context of Bombay cinema, at least in the 40s and the 50s, the and even later, the everyday speech itself has shifted and the idiom has shifted. What hasn't shifted is the mixture of Hindi, Urdu, and later on, of course, Hindi, Urdu, English, sometimes Hindi, Urdu, English, Punjabi, right? So there's so these languages are often intermixed, intermingled
Yeah.
in dialogues and in songs, and it would be really difficult to take them apart. In fact, I was just recently watching a video where Javed Akhtar is
Mm.
who himself, who wrote scripts in the 70s and then subsequently has, turned to writing lyrics, and he spoke about the ways in which the languages are meshed together so that when you say a sentence, it would be really difficult for you to, say a sentence without mingling
Mm. That is wonderful.
Urdu and Hindi. So the language that's spoken, I think, is better. The better name for it is probably Hindustani,
Mm.
rather than to call it Hindi or Urdu.
That's a wonderful and brilliant idea. So let's move on. And thank God you are an expert in language and literature. So you have perfectly explained that to the best of and like not to the best of your ability. You perfectly and explained it in a better way for our consumption. Before we move on, there are two verses from the same song Khudajani that I have just put out on my WhatsApp status. The first one says, God knows I'm devoted to you. I really love this part because it shows how committed one is to the relationship. And I think I'm going to send it to my fiance.
Okay.
I put it directly on my WhatsApp status, and I'm sure she will see, and she knows that I wrote it for her, and I think I will send them personally, privately to her. And the other part which says, by dying for you, I lived an entire life. I cannot quote the
Right,
Hindi part of
right,
the song.
right,
These
right.
are very, very powerful verses that if that teach us how to talk to our lovers, how to talk to our loved ones. There was a time when I used a clip from Arjit Singh's song called Sam Jawan. I think it's Alia Bhatt in the song, and I forget the other guy. The part of that song, oh my God, I cannot directly quote it. It's so powerful that when I sent it to a girl that I was proposing to love at that time, she said, "Oh, I don't know what to say."
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the ways in which certainly love is presented both visually but also lyrically,
Mm,
and of course in the melody, because
mm,
you so often said people love
mm,
the compositions. I think that there's a way in which that it's made really attractive,
mm,
intoxicating, beautiful, and I think in paying attention to the lyrics, as you are, I think also able to hear how there are both very different, like, literary traditions, but also then how those literary traditions render romance,
mm,
so that what you just said, that I will um, like die for you, right?
mm,
And I think here again, as a part of this literary tradition, what what has always been very interesting for me is the place of the self
Oh.
in in romance, right?
Mm,
So within this tradition, but also within this literary tradition, um, the word sort of fana
mm,
often gets used, right? Where you erase yourself,
mm, mm,
uh, uh, and in erasing yourself, you find love.
mm,
And that literary tradition, in some ways, is so different from a Euro-American tradition, which is about the assertion of the self.
mm,
It's not about erasure, but assertion of the
mm.
self.
Wow.
It's about the building of the self and its assertion and its uniqueness. So here, a literary tradition, which is so different, right? In
Mhm.
in its expression of romance,
Yeah.
where the greatness of love is in uh, and the finding of love is in an
Mm,
erasure
mm.
of the self, rather than in the individual
Assertion.
building
Mm,
of the self. So we have a very different understanding, I think, of the self
mm.
in terms of romance.
So this is so deep, to be honest with you, and I like the analytical expression of how distinctly different love is perceived
Right.
by both the Indians and the Americans. So apart from uh, um, okay, apart from talking to God or talking about God because of the intoxication of love, there is the other part which is sort of in anger. When someone has lost his loved one and is complaining bitterly about why the death, why this
Right.
time, why him, why her, it's that you feel the frustration, the anger, you feel the fire in them burning within, and they have nothing to do. They have no capability whatsoever to take any action. Yehuda from a film called Rocky Handsome, of this guy, John Abraham. Um, in the song, let me see. Yeah, in the song, he speaks angrily to God, not about God, describing his partner as his world. He says, "World was lovelier than paradise." So you see, in the song, we see in the video of the song, his wife or girlfriend, something like that, is killed, murdered. and then he starts complaining. And I think the person that sang that song is even a Muslim. I'll get his name. Rahat, I think it's Rahat Ali Fatih Khan, something like that. Yes, he is. So in the song, he describes his girlfriend as, or his wife, his lover, his partner, as his world. And he says, world was lovelier than paradise. Jannat is the word used in the lyrics. He also says, I didn't have enmity with you, God, specifically. But
Right.
why did you do this? Meaning, why did you take her from me? So,
Right.
I don't know. The,
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think again here, to just to go back again to what I've said and just building on the conversation we've been having, I think that uh, one can, in terms of as these songs are written, uh, they are using a metaphorical language,
mm,
uh, and God, uh, as well as paradise, are being invoked in that
mm,
metaphorical idiom, which is, of course, an idiom that is also a religious idiom, right?
mm, mm,
But it's being the religious idiom is used is being used to in some ways raise the emotional stakes,
mm,
right? Just like the sort of the visuals so often in romantic songs
mm.
in Hindi film music,
Yes.
they will take us up to the mountains, or they
Mm,
will have us running by oceans, right?
mm, yes.
So that one understands that this is these visuals and the grandness of the visuals expresses sort of the grandness of the feelings,
Mm,
um,
okay.
or even to render love in song as opposed
Yeah.
to prose,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is to show its grandness.
Mm,
And here again, I think the you that you have a metaphorical language that's used, a metaphorical language that is drawing upon idioms of religion that would be common to Urdu literary tradition,
mm,
and through that, you're raising the emotional stakes. You're conveying to your listeners uh, the 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 profound sadness and disruption that you feel
okay.
because you've lost somebody that you love.
But then you are ventilating your anger and frustration and exasperation towards God, because
Right.
it's only God that has the power to create and to take life.
Right.
Isn't that
Right.
problematic?
In some ways, I mean, I think that there's a way in which maybe partly the venting to God, at least for me, I read it one again as part of this the raising of the emotional stakes,
Mm,
um, but also part of exactly what you've said, which is that the at least for perhaps the that character, since God does have the ability to both take life and give life, then maybe the sadness is, and anger is like, why did you take this life that meant so much to me,
mm.
right?
Is
So I think
so
again to
do you agree that he has gone far?
so I think here for me again, from the vantage point that I'm coming from,
Mm,
is a vantage point of seeing this in and hearing this in a metaphorical way,
okay. Okay,
right?
that's wonderful.
And also seeing this as a way of just and uh, raising and foregrounding the emotional stakes of
Mm,
what has happened. right?
Oh,
That in some ways, if you're angry at God or sad with God, the stakes of that are far greater than being angry at a human being,
yes.
right? So then you automatically raise the stakes of what has happened.
Okay.
If what the song sequence is, the purpose, if one of the key purposes of the song sequence is to articulate an emotional one's emotions, and to convey those emotions, uh, and to uh, and do so in a melodramatic fashion.
Okay. Do you have any other question about Bollywood in Nigeria?
I think so. Is it? I'm curious. How do most people? So they consume Bollywood. So is it mostly through streaming? So listening through streaming and watching through streaming, or is it through VCDs or DVDs? Or does the do cable channels or the state channels show? Uh,
Oh, that's a wonderful question, and it goes way back, decades ago, when pirated Indian movies. I cannot remember the years, possibly 50s or even way before that, before Nigeria got its independence. I don't have the figures in my head. When those pirated copies of the movies were sent to Nigeria, were sent to Nigeria, and there were cinemas opened for people to go and watch. And then when we got our state television channels and national television channels, they started playing the movies, especially at the weekends when everyone was at home. From
mm,
morning to afternoon, you would watch beautiful Indian movies. I was born in 1995, so growing up in the early 2000s, I can still remember vividly some of the movies that were aired, that were shown, that were played by those state and national TV channels. Um, so that's how we used to watch them, and then cassette. There was tape record, no, cassette. We used cassette video recorders. We used to watch via cassettes, and then VCD, DVD players came in, and then satellite channels like Z Aflam,
yeah, yeah,
one B4U movies, uh,
right,
Z Z World now, Z
right,
Cinema, a lot of Z's, all those Z's,
right,
and now
right,
there is NBC Bollywood. So we use them to watch Indian movies, and then streaming channels like platforms like Netflix now,
right, right,
Amazon, Prime Videos, and so on and so forth, which, as I have read and heard, are now taking up the from the cinema business. The cinemas have been, I don't want to say crushed, but have been seriously affected. Um, have been seriously affected by the influence of Netflix and the rest. And there are some websites that we people go and download some of such movies from. So we have several ways of getting those films. And one interesting thing about how we consume the movies is that now there are movies that are dubbed. Telugu movies and Hindi movies are dubbed into Hausa language.
oh wow, okay,
Yes, this is a big market now in Kano
yeah,
State.
yeah, yeah,
In northern Nigeria is a big market. We have prominent production companies now that are doing an incredible amount of work and effort, putting in a lot of effort to translate those movies into Hausa language, our own language. And to be honest with you, I cannot remember the last time I watched an Indian movie in Hindi language.
wow,
Personally, yes, because I find it difficult to understand the language.
yeah,
Well, sometimes they speak fast, so even reading the subtitle is becomes something hard and difficult for me. So now this this movie has been translated into Hausa language for me. I would watch it as with ease, and I would find it more convenient, more comfortable, much easier for me to understand and comprehend the messages. Unlike if to say I'm watching the original Hindi movie with English subtitles. So this is another big market now that is booming in northern Nigeria, and I think people like you should come in and do your research and
Right.
document the
Right.
development.
Did you have you mentioned this to my colleague Tejaswini Ganti, because she's actually doing like a book right now on 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 dubbing
Oh,
in the
uh,
context of India. So
that
she's that so she would love to know about this.
yeah, I will email her, and I cannot remember whether we talked about that when I hosted her. Was
Yeah.
it in 2023 when we hosted her and we talked about Indian movies copied from the American movies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
our local film industry copying from the Indian movies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I will email her and talk to her if she needs any data from us, any support from us. Would be delighted to do interviews
Yeah,
with the
yeah, yeah.
people.
No, this is precisely what she's working on in the
Mm,
context of India, and
mm,
this would be, I think, amazing, or
mm. Yeah,
for her.
she's
Yeah,
a nice person. I interviewed her once, and I really enjoyed that interview,
yeah,
Professor Tejaswini Ganti.
yeah,
So this is something interesting. I will talk to her about it. Finally, let's move to the last part of the interview. Um, okay, there is this song called Varsity. I have to confirm Varsity, last I checked, had over 1.6 or 1.7 billion views on
okay,
YouTube.
okay,
Varsity, and to the best of my knowledge, it's a standalone song. It's not in any movie.
okay,
Varsity song. Now it has 1.7 billion views. 6 years
okay,
ago, it was uploaded 6 years ago on T Series YouTube channel. So
okay,
in that song, very beautiful, very melodious. In that song, one of the first verses says, "In exchange, okay, number one, for you, I will give up my faith." That's what it
right,
says, and I
right,
think she also says it. And number two, in exchange for you, even if God gives me heaven, that is paradise, then he says he swears that he will leave that behind as well. So meaning, if God says, hey, um, here is paradise for you, just enter, because of
right,
his girlfriend, or because he
right,
has got that the love from that girlfriend of his, he would say to God, God, I don't need your paradise.
right,
I'm
right,
I'm I'm satisfied being with my lover instead of
right,
being in your paradise. For
right.
us, that sounds crazy.
Right, right. I mean, I think again, as I've been saying
Mm,
previously, I think the purpose of it, in some ways, what the songs themselves and lyrics, like the ones that you read,
mm,
are are using metaphors and a metaphorical language
mm,
to uh, to to uh, to
mm,
show the importance of love,
mm. Yeah.
and the importance, and one of the things that's really interesting, I think, in all of the songs that you've been talking about,
Mm,
is the engagement with the sacred,
mm,
and so this is, so for example, in contemporary songs in English, we don't necessarily see a similar engagement with the spiritual or the sacred at the level of lyrics.
yeah.
uh, and here you see that the emotional heft of the song,
Mm,
but also uh, the heft of romance gets
mm,
raised by putting it in. in the world of the sacred and through an engagement with the
Mm.
sacred. But
Okay.
but and it's through putting love in relation to the domain of the sacred that you in some ways raise the weight of love,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And uh, and again, I think this is very much around through metaphorical language, through the placing of love in relation to the sacred, that the value of love and the greatness of love is being
Mm. That's great.
produced and increased.
Mm.
So again, sort of the references to the sacred, to God, to paradise,
Mm.
are a way to show the importance
That's great.
uh,
Okay.
of love. Just in some ways, just like in terms of your exchange with your fiance right now, that that to use the words, right, that in dying I've in dying for you I've lived
Mm.
my life.
Mm.
Well, you don't, but you don't really intend to like commit suicide, right? So
Mm.
there,
Yeah.
so that but there's a way in which uh, uh, by using those words,
Mm.
you're expressing to her, uh, how important
Mm.
that love is for you,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
How and how much you care for her, how much you value her.
So okay. In the process of us expressing our deep or deepest love for our loved ones, it's okay to exaggerate, to hyperbolize, to use hyperbolic expressions.
Right, right, and
That's
also
linguistically speaking.
right, so right, and in a way, what it does is that it begins to show what the emotional stakes are, what the value of love is, and
Mm.
you do that by going to the sacred.
That's great.
In this literary tradition,
Mm.
that's what you do. You do that by going to the sacred,
Mm.
um,
I,
and uh, uh, so it's part and parcel of that of that tradition,
mm.
which I think and I think that it would be really interesting to kind of work and think about this further. Uh,
Okay.
the place of the self, the place of the sacred, in the ways in which romance gets rendered,
Yeah, that's good.
especially in lyrics.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So before we go, what sort of how powerful have the Bollywood songs been in projecting the Indian soft power?
Right, right. So I mean, I think from what you discussed, clearly very powerful, right? Right? Like just from what you have shared,
Mm.
where people are, through the songs, learning language,
Mm.
wanting to know more about the culture, learning more about the history, even like the person that you mentioned who got a scholarship and went to India to study, right?
Mm.
So clearly, the songs and the films are, uh, you know, uh, uh, having are doing
Mm.
are doing a certain amount of work
Mm.
in exerting power per
Of-
se.
Yeah, I agree with you. And everyone in this business of ours must agree with you 100%. So how do you feel personally when you see um, what's the word for it? Your language is being loved, adored, appreciated, learned, studied, examined, adopted, and so on and so forth in different parts of the world. How do you feel as an
Right, right,
Indian?
right, right. I mean, I think maybe I should put this more in how maybe at not how I feel as a scholar
Okay.
potentially, because I think that there's so much scholarship on Hollywood and its global circulation.
Mm.
So that when I hear about that there's a very that when I hear about sort of the circulation of Bombay films in different parts of the world and the ways in which people connect
Mm.
with them, I think I think to myself, oh, here's a history of a very different, in some ways, tradition of film and filmmaking,
Mm.
right? And the fact that people connect with it. So I want to know about like how and why uh, uh, people begin connecting with it. What is it? What is it about this tradition, and their connections with this tradition, which might be different from their connections with Hollywood, because there are of course people who like both as well,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Like me.
So for me, learning about the history, yeah, exactly. So learning about those histories, uh, and and the ways in the ways in which also see, potentially connections between people, right? That
Yes.
there that if these forms of culture are able to cross boundaries, then we can also see the possibility of connections, of in terms of audience tastes,
Mm.
right? Like what the kinds of stories that
Mm.
audiences like, albeit that also has to be tempered with the knowledge that there's also a certain industrial power, right? So, in that circulation. So because in some ways, the Nigerian film industry itself is amazing, right?
Mm.
Like
Oh.
that the what Nigeria has done with video is amazing, and the ways in which it has really reformulated film language and and narrative is really amazing.
Mm.
But for example, it doesn't circulate in India in the way in which Bombay films circulates in Nigeria. So we have to
Mm.
think about like why is that, right? Like uh,
Mm.
why does culture travel one way and not another
But two
way,
ways,
right?
yeah.
And
Mm.
yeah, so I think that also has to be thought through.
Mm. Okay, that's wonderful. Maybe some people would say the Indian government has been supportive of the film industries, especially the Bombay ones. Unlike not the other way around, like in Nigeria, no, they have managed to grow up on their own. Would some would say no or very little support from the government. Is it true that the
Right.
Indian government does help
Right.
the
Yeah.
film
No,
industry?
I don't. I think basically, I think the until the late 90s, I would say no.
Mm, okay.
But I think post late 90s,
Mm,
I think those relationships begin to change because the film industry gets recognized as an industry. So that means you can get loans from banks in a way
okay.
that where before you got loans from sort of private
Mm,
financiers. So I think that the relationship between commercial industries and governments in India, has it's a complex history.
mm,
So I think in the late 90s there's a shift, but I think to a large extent still, I mean, certainly you have corporations that that enter the ball game now, and so you have again money that's been being poured into the industries through that. There's also, of course, collaborations with U.S. production houses,
mm.
like somebody like Viacom, for example.
Okay.
So those are also ways. Um,
Mm,
so I mean, I think. with if this was South Korean popular culture, I would say yes, the state there has actually been really supportive.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's
in,
good.
in the context of India, I would say commercial cinema. With commercial cinema, I would say less so.
Yeah.
So I think again, then uh, the context that then it's interesting to kind of think about what is it that gets the circulation going,
Mm.
and if the state does help, what are the ways in which it helps, right?
Mm, I understand. So finally, before we go, please, if you have any friend or colleague that, especially someone from South Korea that specializes in the South Korean film industry, I would love to interview them because there's a growing number of young people who are learning to speak Korean language by
Yes.
watching the South Korean films and
Yeah.
and now the South Korean movies, especially the romantic ones, are taking over from the Bollywood
Yes.
film
Yes.
industry. So
Yeah. Yes.
I would
Yes.
love to host one professor who specializes in that field, especially someone from South Korea. If you can help,
Yeah,
I
no,
would like.
I know of a couple of colleagues because I've done actually an edited collection with
Mm.
uh, colleagues on South Korean popular culture and
That's
Indian
great.
popular culture and their flows. So I know a few colleagues
Oh,
who
thank you. I'll be delighted to
who
be
were,
connected.
yeah, no, I'd be happy to connect you.
Thank you so much. Fine. Professor, before we go, there was a time when I had an interview with a scholar in our state, Kano, and he told us that Bollywood music or Bollywood songs are an extension of the Hindu religion. The songs, the dance steps, and so on and so forth are pretty much part and parcel of the Hindu religion. What can you say about this? What's your response?
Yeah, so I think the Bombay song sequences actually draw upon a range of cultural and religious traditions, and and they range from uh, uh, certainly classical Hindustani
Mm-hmm.
traditions
Mm.
of music. But also of classical dance like Kathak. Um, uh, 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 and sometimes, of course, when there are there might be songs that are where people are shown worshiping in a temple. There are also songs, in relation to uh, 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 to mosques as well as to
Mm.
churches. Um, there are also songs that drew upon 1950s and 70s music from the U.S. That came. So the big band era, for example, or sort of the Elvis Presley style of dancing that was mimicked often by Shami Kapoor, or but if we go back to like a song uh, like Besharam Rang, it's inspired by Latin footsteps, and that music, right, is part. So I think you have a range of influence that are not specifically necessarily tied to to Hinduism.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So it's okay. It's a bit problematic to make a sweeping conclusion and say that Bollywood songs are an extension of the Hindu religion.
right, right. I wouldn't. I mean, I think that it's taking from various cultural idioms, both in India, but also outside. Right.
Okay.
So when you see a song like "Badtameez," the
Mm-hmm.
right, like there you have the choreography, the music is taking from a certain style of
Mm. Yes.
of dancing that emerged in in the U.S.
Okay. Mm.
Right? So you, and similarly
Mm.
with Besharam Rang,
Yeah.
you're in both in the music, in the
Mm.
lyrics themselves, there's use of Spanish,
Yeah. Mm.
and in the choreography, you see multiple traditions, Latin, Urdu,
Mm.
being mingled together.
Okay. Wow, that's fantastic. So okay, you okay? Like me as a Muslim and many others, people and many other people like me, who love the Indian music, who love the Bollywood songs, and so on and so forth. What's your advice to us? Which type should we consume?
I mean, I think you should consume what you like, right?
Mm,
Right.
yeah,
So I mean, I think, I would, you should listen to what you enjoy,
that's great.
and right.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Monika Mehta from Binghamton University in New York. I really, really appreciate you taking your precious time to speak to me. And I really appreciate you speaking to me for such a long time. And I really appreciate and value the enormity and the immensity of the knowledge and ideas that you have spewed out for me. I really value that. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate that.
But
And I look forward to seeing the edited video.
yeah, definitely, definitely, it will be heavily edited, and we will definitely release it as soon as possible. What can you say about me, my style, the topics we covered, and everything?
Yeah, no, I'm very, I think you're very good at interviewing, and both in terms of asking questions, but also providing information about sort of the specific context,
Mm.
from which you're and location that you're asking those questions.
Thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate. So, on behalf of everyone that has contributed to the production of this exclusive interview with me and Professor Monika Mehta from Binghamton University, my name is Umar Isa Dandago, saying goodbye and see you very soon. Bye bye.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you so much, Prof. Take care.
Sure.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
आपसे फिर मिलेंगे खुदा हाफिज.
आपसे जरूर मिलेंगे फिर. Okay.
खुदा
Bye.
हाफिज. Bye bye.
Bye bye.